Hey guys, Will Turbot checking in here for Demand the Truth. Doing my second video of the day. Had a long day, but I wanted to talk about Julian Assange. It's something that's kind of all over the news right now, and it's very, very important. It's one of probably the most important stories of our entire lives when you go back and look at it. And he was one of the co-founders, obviously, of WikiLeaks. Before that, he was a hacker, supposedly. Now, he's done a lot of great things. He's done a lot of things that I'm also interested and skeptical about. But I'm gonna start with some of the things that he's done, and I'm just gonna give you a history, a factual history of some things that have occurred. And I do not agree with Assange on a number of things, but I'm just gonna take a practical look at this and also just give you a factual history of WikiLeaks. So he was a co-founder of WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks has been around for over 10 years, almost 11 years at this point, maybe even 11 at this point. They have never, ever had to retract a story ever in the history of them bringing out information. Now, you can't say that about Fox News. You can't say it about CNN. You can't even say that about Young Turks, InfoWars, any of them. They've all retracted stories, a number of stories over and over and over again. Assange and WikiLeaks have never ever had to retract a story ever because they just get leaked documents and they just expose them. Sometimes they'll redact certain things if they feel that it, causes harm or potential harm or threats to national security. But that's really what they do. If they see that there's an abuse, something going on, then they're going to expose it. Now, I'm gonna throw this meme up in the chat after this, and I know most people are sleeping right now because it's a rainy Sunday night here in Providence, Rhode Island. But it goes through the history of WikiLeaks, and when the Republicans used to hate WikiLeaks when they were exposing all the crimes of Bush and the torture and the wars, and then the Democrats hated them when they were exposing the illegal spying of Obama and the NSA and all the war crimes and the drone killings and so forth. So both sides have, it's on a number of issues, it's not just one or two, have disliked WikiLeaks in the past because they've never ever been wrong on a story and they just expose both sides. And like I said, I don't even agree with everything that Assange and WikiLeaks say. But interesting thing about all this, so for 10 plus years, they've never ever had to retract a story. So I think that's an important thing to point out. Then you have the Podesta emails. And the interesting thing about the Podesta emails is the Podesta emails have been proven to be true. Hillary Clinton herself, Podesta, they all admit that these emails are real. They are all factual. And everybody always talks about prosecuting the leakers, but what about the people that, or the hackers, but what about the people that are doing the wrong things? I've interviewed CIA whistleblower John Kiriakou. He exposed that the U.S. was torturing people, and that was policy for U.S. to torture. Not a single person who allowed the torture, carried out the torture, instructed the torture, went to jail, but he did. He was the whistleblower. So why is Assange going to jail potentially, or why is he being extradited right now for exposing crimes of the U.S. government on the Republican and the Democrat side? And I love how Trump is like, oh, I love WikiLeaks, and now he doesn't know anything about WikiLeaks. So that's pretty interesting there. But this guy's just a journalist publishing information. This is very, very scary. And what's up to Chase and Jeff out there, one of the few people that are rocking with me right now. I appreciate it. And I appreciate what both of you guys do. You guys are both out there fighting the good fight, fighting for what you believe in. And ultimately, like I say, I shouldn't have to say I don't agree with everything Assange says. I don't agree with anything that everybody says. There's not one person that I agree with wholeheartedly on what they agree on. If anybody did that, they'd be a sheep. But another thing that's pretty interesting about this whole Assange thing is no matter what you think about Assange, he's been holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy now for, 7 years? He was in there for 7 years. Just imagine if you were in a place where you couldn't move for 7 years. That's solitary confinement, even if it's a house. Can you imagine what a toll that would take on you psychologically? So it's very interesting, and you're right, and it's true. We have to protect whistleblowers. We don't have to agree with each other, but when people are exposing information, we got to protect these people. Like we, why don't we lock up the people? And so this is the next point I was going to get to. Obama already pardoned, and I'm very glad he did. And I'm sorry for the time that Chelsea Manning had to serve. But Obama, and this is one of the things I love that Obama did. I'll give credit due here. Obama pardoned Chelsea Manning, and I love that he did that because Chelsea Manning just exposed one of the things that Chelsea Manning in WikiLeaks, the two of them exposed from Chelsea Manning to WikiLeaks. And the video is still online where it's a bunch of U.S. soldiers, and they're like, oh, yeah, these guys got a whole bunch of AKs, permissions to fire. And they're just guys with, like, cameras in their hands. And they just shoot up this whole area full of people. And then some guy with the minivan comes to save him with his son, and they shoot up the minivan. Permission to fire, permission to fire. And so Chelsea Manning and WikiLeaks released that, and Chelsea Manning and WikiLeaks are in jail, but not the people that ordered the murder, carried out the murder, gave the order, say, can we murder? Yes, you can murder. None of those people go to jail. John Kiriakou, he went to jail for exposing the truth, but none of the people that were doing the torturing went to jail. I mean, this is absolutely crazy. Like, if you tell the truth, you go to jail, but if you do the bad thing, you don't go to jail. Sorry, I'm skipping around over here, shaking the desk, so I apologize for that. I was just getting mad at somebody watching the video the other day, and by no means are my production value that great, but I was just, a little upset because he kept shaking the video, and I'm doing the same darn thing now because I'm in another room right now trying to be a little less annoying. But it's very interesting to me to see what's going to happen to Assange, because the quote-unquote crime that they're trying to get him on is a crime that Chelsea Manning's already been pardoned for. And it actually has nothing to do with any of the Russian collusion or any of that. So if they're trying to, why are they trying to prosecute him for a crime that that Chelsea Manning's already been pardoned for? And the same thing with Snowden. Like, Snowden was the one that exposed that the NSA was spying. They were taking billions of our dollars and illegally spying on all of us. So none of the people illegally spying went to jail. None of those programs stopped. I mean, there was a law. I mean, John Kiriakou helped with some of that too. But I mean, there's been laws that have been put into place after the fact. But you think the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, do you think they're going to listen to those laws? They've never listened to laws. They're above the law. So what makes you think that they're going to start now? So as you see, time after time after time again, same thing with Edward Snowden right now. Love him, hate him, whatever you think about him, he's over in Russia, and he can't come to the United States, the country that he loves. And so I think it's interesting. And another thing that's interesting too is the death of Seth Rich. Maybe now this is one other thing. So we'll talk about Seth Rich and 9/11. I want to get those 2 points out of my way before I sign off. But Seth Rich and 9/11. First, I'll bring up the 9/11 point. And I believe that Assange said we don't believe in false conspiracies, or people that believe, or laughed at people that believed in false conspiracies about 9/11. There's nothing crazy about the real conspiracy about 9/11 was that 27 Muslim hijackers with box cutters took down the most technologically supreme, advanced military superpower in the history of all man, simultaneously shut down the Pentagon, the FBI, the CIA, destabilized every NORAD, the FAA, everything in the whole United States, completely destabilized us with a bunch of box cutters and destroyed the United States. That's a real conspiracy. That's literally the definition of conspiracy, multiple people getting together to do something. I don't believe in a conspiracy. I'm just questioning, hey, how did a building fall when nothing hit it? And how did two different TV stations broadcast it down before it was actually down and it's in the background? How did that happen? How did two planes bring down these two towers, but it didn't bring down the Pentagon? So, I mean, there's a million things that don't add up there. So why is Assange, what's the deal there with Assange there? So I'm really not feeling Assange on that, but maybe he doesn't want to be too controversial. I'll give him one pass on that, but I definitely disagree with him on that, calling that a conspiracy theory. I think the mainstream story is more of a conspiracy. I mean, either way, they're both conspiracy theories. It just depends on who you're believing, because either way, no matter what you believe that day, multiple people got together to commit a bad act. So there was a conspiracy that occurred that day, whether you believe the mainstream conspiracy or you believe another conspiracy. But either way, unless you believe what one person committed it alone, that's the only case that 9/11 is not a conspiracy. But my last point right now is about Seth Rich. And I plan to have Brian Turchin back on very soon. Him and I and Titus Frost, I'd like to also get him back on soon. And Lee Stewie, I need to get all these people back on. I've just been doing my DCYF thing for a while. But we went to the last bar that Seth Rich was seen alive. And now Seth Rich, according to the mainstream story, was a DNC staffer. He was a Bernie Sanders supporter. He was 28 years old, loved America, loved this country, and really wanted to see real change by all accounts. And Julian Assange basically said, without saying his name, because they can't say his name, that Seth Rich was his source and he got murdered. So I think if Julian Assange is saying that, and not just an ambassador over there in the UK also said the same thing. Also, the former technical head of the NSA, William Benny, has said that the rate at which the information was downloaded could only have been done by a USB or a file download, could not have been done from a hacking. And this guy ran the technical, like I said, aspect of the NSA for a very long time. Check out a documentary about him, A Good American, and there's some other great people in that documentary. Amazing, talking about whistleblowers there. He's an amazing one, William Benny. What a great guy. But yeah, so it looks to me, I'm not a betting man and I'm not willing to say one way or another, but it looks to me that if Assange is saying that he got the information from Seth Rich, basically, he's saying everything but that. You can look at a interview with him, I don't know if it was on CNN, Andrew Cooper, somebody mainstream, and they were asking him about, you got to be careful because people end up dead. He's like, you're not saying that Seth Rich was doing that. He was like, our sources are in risk of their life and da-da-da. He's saying everything because we don't give up his sources. So he basically said that Seth Rich is a source. You got one of the ambassadors over there in the UK saying that Seth Rich is a source. And you got the former technical head of the NSA talking about that the download speeds, and others too, they've actually done experiments on this that's showing that the download speeds are impossible according to the fake story. So it looks like this happened. And then there's so many things about Seth Rich's death that don't add up. They said it was a robbery gone wrong. Nothing was taken from him. There's a lot of weird things going on. The last thing I'll say about this is bare minimum, there needs to be an investigation done. And as I always like to remind, because people keep telling me this nowadays to remind people that I'm healthy and I would never kill myself. But Seth Rich, we went to there needs to be an investigation. And if anything ever happens to me, there needs to be an investigation. And I think everybody deserves an investigation if they have a death. I think that's just the right. We pay our taxes for that. There needs to be a damn investigation. But even his family's, even the parents, I forgot about this, of Seth Rich, hired a private investigator to do an investigation on his death, and it came back saying that there was something afoul, there was foul play, and it wasn't the mainstream story, and he was probably put out a hit. Then all of a sudden, and this guy even came on mainstream news, then all of a sudden the family changed their mind, like, oh, actually, don't investigate this anymore. So were they forced behind the scenes to shut up? I don't know. But we had this private investigator. So where are his findings? There's a clip on, I think that one was on Fox News. You can find it, or I'm sure it was on multiple media outlets if you can just look up the private investigator, Seth Rich. But anyways, long story short, there needs to be an investigation. And I went to the last bar in D.C. that Seth Rich was known to have, the last place that Seth Rich was seen to be alive at. And I went there with Titus Frost, Brian Richmond, Lee Stewie, who the hell else did we go with? I forget. There was a bunch of us. But anyways, yeah, so we go in there and we start asking questions about Seth Rich. There's a small picture of Seth Rich on the thing, and then all of a sudden we're asking questions, like different questions, not like mainstream questions. Then all of a sudden, the bartender comes from behind the bar to our table. And we were like all on the way in the back to our table. There were servers there too. I don't know where the bartender came, and they gave us like each double shots on the house, and there was like extra shots left over. I'm like, okay. And then we kept talking, but eventually the manager of the bar came out and talked to Lee for like a half hour, what seemed to be a hour outside, saying, from what I can say, and she wouldn't even say this. He said, I mean, I'd love to have her back on so she can recount the whole story, but she basically said that the bar manager, in essence, was saying, hey, look, we know something really weird was up, and there's so many things that don't make sense, and something really weird was going on that day, but I can't say because they're going to try to shut my old shit down or whatever. So that guy is, to me, kind of like a bitch and a coward, and he should just come forward and just say what he knows, because it's someone's life. What would you do if that was his life, or his daughter, or his son, or his grandmother, his mother, yada, yada, yada. So that's my 2 cents, 3 cents, 19 cents, however you want to add that up, about Assange. I mean, it could go on and on and on. But I just think it's funny. My last point would be to reiterate that we need an investigation into Seth Rich, and we need to stop punishing the people that are exposing the crimes. You know, if some of these people are breaking the law, well, first of all, most of these laws are unjust, but if they are breaking the law, sure, punish them. But let's punish the people that are committing the crimes first that they're exposing, and then you can go ahead and punish them for breaking the law to show that a crime is exposed. So that's my sense, and thank you very much for tuning in, guys. Take care.